Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Huff with CCJ, and it is my pleasure to introduce our first panel of the virtual CCJ symposium titled On the Front Lines, How to Emerge Safer and Stronger from COVID-19. Hopefully, we've all felt a sense of pride and respect for truck drivers and the critical role of fleet management during the last 2 months. Professional drivers and their office support staff have been on the front lines to keep the country moving despite an invisible and dangerous enemy that has swept over the country. Truckers have become the heroes in the eyes of the public, but what many do not see is all of the support they have received from staff who are working around the clock at the office and from home. Our panelists are all experts in driver recruiting, safety, and health and wellness. You'll hear from Jesse Burnett, Brenda Kraft, and from Chelsea Loining. I hope that you will take note of anything that can benefit your business and join us for a live Q&A immediately following their remarks. Jesse, as you well know, professional drivers face many forms of stress on the job, and the coronavirus emergency has certainly added to that level of stress and anxiety. In 2017, CCJ recognized Hirschbach as an innovator for your driver health and wellness program. Do you still provide drivers with a health and wellness coach? And if so, how has this resource really benefited them during this time?
We do. So all of our drivers, when they come through orientation at Hirschbach, part of their orientation is there's a 4-hour wellness program that they attend. It's required for all of our drivers. It's just part of our culture at Hirschbach. But when they go through this wellness program, we talk about, functional movement and diaphragmatic breathing, eating with intent. And so part of that program, after they're done, they can enroll in our ongoing wellness program where they receive weekly coaching. They have a kit that they take with them. We provide them with meals in their truck as far as what is healthy options, what's not healthy options. And so that's just a portion of it. During this COVID time, we provide even more resources, not just for the drivers, but for our office staff as well. We've all been working from home for a little over a month now. And for all of our office staff, most of these people are not used to working by themselves in their house every single day. And so our wellness team has been kind of figuring out new ways and strategies to work not just with the drivers, but with the office staff. We also provide resources on our Hirschbach app that the drivers can have access to anytime. So they can go right there and get a smoking cessation, listen to some audio, here's some mindful meditation. So we have a lot of different ways, even if they don't necessarily sign up for the program, that they can still participate in the wellness as well.
I understand that Cocky Trucking has already taken steps to hire and train drivers remotely. You did this before the government's issued the stay-at-home orders. Can you tell us what you did and how it helped you transition to the new normal where it's very difficult to have in-person contact with drivers?
So we began remote orientations about 3 years ago when we acquired a Florida terminal. And we would have Florida drivers come to the terminal for orientation, and we would set up a similar situation as we're doing now with the same kind of platform to be able to meet and greet each driver that was in orientation and answer any questions, and they could speak with one person from each department with anything they had questions in operations, the shop, payroll. The only problem during then was the paperwork. They would still physically fill out paperwork, which was made a little tough online. So then we stepped up and joined a platform where we could send the paperwork to the driver and they could complete it online. And that way, when we had the orientation, we would still meet and greet. Before the coronavirus, we started with a program where the driver could actually have the orientation and the meet and greet within the comfort of their own home. So they would finish the paperwork online, we would review it, we would have our meeting with them from their house, and then once their drug test came back, we would find them transportation if need so, or they would just go to the terminal and pick up their truck and do their road test.
And I believe your road test has changed as well, right?
Changed drastically. There's what we've done now is We have them do a pre-trip with a person watching from a distance, and then they actually go down the road, and we are starting to utilize cameras within the truck to watch the driver.
I understand you've continued to hire drivers during this pandemic. A lot of companies have put freezes on hiring, but you've continued to hire. Can you tell us, has business been the same? Has it gotten maybe a little worse, or how's it been going?
It's slowed down maybe a little. What used to maybe before in an orientation per week is dwindled down to 2. What this has done is, even though people are a little hesitant out there, they feel comfortable the way we're handling this.
How have you handled driver hiring and training during the crisis? You probably may have put a freeze on driver hiring because of the economy, but whether it's orientation training or ongoing training, have you shifted to a remote model where drivers no longer come in for in classroom meetings?
Yes. So luckily for us with our online training, a lot of that had already been done online. We work with Carrier's Edge, so we're able to send training modules directly to the tablets. So that's been something that's been really, really handy for for doing any training with such a large group of drivers. We have made changes to our hiring process and our orientation. So since this all happened, we did limit our class size to 4. And we did put a halt on hiring trainees and focused on just the experienced drivers, because obviously with a trainee and a trainer, they'd be sharing a truck, and once again, just doesn't really allow us to do much social distancing there. Recently, we took it a step further. We recorded all of our presenters in orientation and put those on the tablet. So there is a login that the new drivers would receive. They'd be able to watch all the videos and complete any paperwork online. And they would actually do that prior to coming to our terminal. And then when they come to the terminal, they're just getting assigned their tractor, their tablet, answering any follow-up questions, and going from there. So yeah, it's been a huge shift in how we've handled orientation. But we also went from 3 days to, maybe a day and a half. So we've been able to certainly get some efficiencies out of it too. We always prefer the in-person, contact. We like to get to know the drivers on a more personal level. But, one day we'll get back to that. But yeah, so we've definitely had some huge shifts there. We also started taking temperatures for any drivers coming into the building, just as an extra precaution.
Jesse, could you tell us how you've been managing driver hiring and training during the crisis?
Driver hiring has not stopped or slowed down for us. One of the good things is we don't have a huge amount of driver turnover, and so we basically just need to hire each week what we lose from the prior week, which is anywhere from 10 to 20 per week. What we're doing, we decided very quickly on that we needed to find a new solution. And luckily, we've been working with Luma, with Scott and Gina from Luma, for several years now. And they really helped us launch it into a whole different level. And so we had a phone call with them a little over about a month and a half ago and said, hey, we know that we're probably going to have to change the way we're doing orientation. And so we collaborated with them, and they came up with a few ideas along with some of our ideas, and we're doing a completely virtual orientation now. So everything that we're doing, we're scheduling the drivers for drug tests prior to them coming to Hirschbach. We also get all of their orientation online content complete. So when they show up, basically their results are in, their orientation is complete, they're scheduled a time to do a road test, but it's a 4-hour block that we're scheduling people to come in. So they're not overlapping. They come in for their scheduled time. They are doing their road test in their truck. It's kind of just a backing scenario and a few other the highway's right by our office here, so we can put them on the highway and have them come back. But it's a pretty neat program, and we think that we like the way it's going. There'll be a few tweaks and changes as we reopen everything, but we really like the way that we're doing it now. We think that it might be long-term for us.
I understand that you're an integral part of a COVID-19 task force at Halver Lines that meets daily. Can you tell us when you began this task force and what are some items that they've come up with and have been able to roll out and accomplish during this emergency situation?
So a lot of things have come out of this meeting and task force. So one of the first things that we did was to increase sanitation within our facilities. We made sure that we did an extra cleaning throughout the day. So we had our nightly cleaning crew that comes in. We actually had them come in during the day to hit some of the high traffic areas. We limited some of our building access, which was a really difficult decision. Our drivers are welcome everywhere. But in order to help stop the spread and make sure we were protecting everybody, we did just limit some of our doorway access where our drivers could still get into the building, but really wanted to limit any interaction. We ordered some hand sanitizers, masks, made sure we had appropriate PPE for our technicians, our drivers, so that they could access what they needed if they couldn't find it on the road. One thing that we were able to do was a local distillery over in Duluth, Minnesota. They were providing hand sanitizer that they made. So we were able to get, large quantities of that, put it in bottles and distribute that as well. So that was a really, really nice thing to have, especially right in our back door pretty much. Electronic bill of ladings. So we've done a lot with technology just to make sure our drivers are not having to have that more than 6 feet distance. Just really want to make sure we're protecting everybody. We heard from a lot of our drivers that truck stops were closing or, they had issues finding places that would be open. So we started providing lunches to our drivers 24/7. They were grab and go. So, they could take up to 3 of them. Just in the event that they were having a hard time finding a truck stop, we would have meals ready for them. So they didn't have to worry about that. And in addition to that, we did open up our fuel network. So we do have, preferred fueling spots that our drivers will use, and we allowed them to have more of a choice with where they go, especially if we had a fuel stop that was more crowded. We wanted to make sure that they're able to go somewhere that's maybe less populated, less of a risk.
One thing that sounded really interesting is your electronic bill of ladings. Can you tell us more about that? Is this are you having drivers scan bill of ladings with an app, or do they not even have to touch paper at all?
So they actually wouldn't have to touch paper at all. I know this is set up with, I don't know if it's set up with all of our shippers and receivers, but we do have that option to where that bill of lading can be just sent electronically. Our driver doesn't have to get out and provide that or sign that. It's all just done through our tablet. All of our drivers have a tablet in their trucks. So just to, again, eliminate that contact.
As this coronavirus situation has unfolded, I'm sure that things change rapidly. Have you created any special task force or committee to help you manage and stay ahead of the situation? And if so, can you give us some insights into what your team has accomplished and the difference it has made for drivers on the front lines?
We've created several different task forces, whether it's somebody just supporting, making sure that, people's mental health. We have a COVID hotline. We have great communication. I know this is maybe a later question, but part of our COVID hotline is it's a task force between our human resource team, and it's a task force between our wellness department. So as any of our team members, whether you're an office, a driver, a mechanic, if you're a family member of any of those, you are welcome to call the COVID hotline. If you have questions, concerns, if you think you came in contact with somebody, if you think you have the coronavirus, if you just need some support of, hey, I've been locked in my house for 2 weeks and haven't seen people, what should I do? We have definitely resources available. The COVID hotline's open 24/7 for any of our family members to reach out and talk to somebody and just get advice.
Is there anything that you found to be the most effective? Like, is it social media? Is it the hotline you mentioned? What seems to be the most used channel for communication?
I would say it's been both social media and it's been our online. We have videos that we're posting. Sometimes we stream them live videos. Sometimes it's just a recorded video that we post. As our drivers are working many different times of the day and night, they can't all log on to a live video. And so we record them or we'll post them for them to go back later. The amount of people, we can measure the amount of people who actually watch the videos from drivers to office staff. And so about 90% of our drivers and our office staff watch the videos every single day. So we have one video that goes up every day just with information and what's going on kind of in our world of Hirschbach right now.
So Brenda, how have you and other fleet administrators used technology to improve communications with drivers during this time, like to keep everyone informed of changes and updates in this rapidly evolving situation?
Well, what we've done is we have a daily newsletter that gets emailed out to all the drivers. And in the email, we put in updates. We put in the policy for coronavirus for the drivers. We put in information to help the drivers, such as telemedic and safe haven apps they can download. The telemedic is in case they're not feeling well over the road, they can call that number and have a virtual meeting with the doctor or nurse.
Have you had any drivers request a leave of absence in order to maybe keep themselves safe or, take care of their concerns they may have? Or any other disruptions that have come as a result of the coronavirus pandemic?
Actually, we have 3 drivers that are on leave due to health conditions. They're older and concerned, and so we're respecting that because it's important that they're at a comfort level that they're at. There's no sense in having somebody out on the road that's going to be paranoid and worried all the time. That's just not safe. So we'd rather make sure they're at their comfort level and there's not going to be any repercussions taken against them whatsoever for doing this.
You're a pretty large company. Have you had any drivers test positive for COVID-19 or have symptoms that caused you to take steps to take them off the road?
Yeah, there's been several people who are calling in, and what our wellness team does is they work with the drivers or even their family members to get them connected with their healthcare professionals. We have doctor on demand. We have many different ways if they can't get to a doctor's office to report or get advice on their symptoms. We get them connected to doctor on demand, and then they'll either give them a recommendation of quarantining or getting them in to get tested. We've been very successful in getting almost everybody in to get tested who that they feel might have those symptoms. The few cases where people aren't able to get somewhere to get tested, they typically didn't have the COVID symptoms, so they didn't think it was necessary to get them tested. But if they are being quarantined, we keep a very detailed list of what's going on, what are their symptoms, and we follow up with that group every single day. We've had a few positive cases, not very many, just a couple, between our family members at Hirschbach, whether it be the drivers, the office, or their family and friends. So we support all of them.
For drivers who may feel that they have symptoms or would like to just maybe even sit this period out at home because of maybe some existing medical conditions that could put them more at risk, have any of them asked you for financial assistance or maybe for help applying for unemployment or other possibilities to ensure that they have the money to sit this out?
Yeah, we've had some drivers opt, whether they have an underlying medical condition, saying that they may not feel safe or comfortable driving. Most of those drivers have been company drivers, and so they have vacation time, or we are able to make sure that they have financial, they're protected. So while they're on leave or at home, whether it's using their earned PTO time, or if they're a lease operator, they have a skip pay that they can use while they're away. But every case, it's a case-by-case basis. And so we take everything into consideration and try to make sure that no one has a financial impact. Most of our lease operators are applying for the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. And so we've been giving, we've been following it very, very closely to make sure that if they're eligible, that we provide the documentations that they need, whether it's a Schedule C or whatever loan documentation, giving them the tips and tricks that we found, that we know which ones do work, which ones don't work, so we can give them that assistance as well.
I understand maybe you've had a case of a driver who has had symptoms of COVID. In that event, and if there are future events, what information are you able to use to find out where that person has been and who they may have come in contact with? What has been your plan of attack to, at that point, control the risk of it spreading to others?
Yeah, so far we have had one positive case, and this was actually a contractor of ours. So as soon as we learned he had symptoms, and along with any employee that has symptoms, we are requiring that they go home or make sure they're away from people for a minimum of 7 days since their symptoms first started. Now, since his test was positive, we were requiring at least 14 days. So he was able to tell us where he had been on what dates. We do also have key cards that our drivers use when they enter our lounges, enter our building. So we can pull a report to see, okay, who may have had access around that time or who else would have been in the building. So by using that, talking to the driver, finding out who he had talked to, we were able to notify all of those folks and let them know, they may have had contact with someone with a positive case, and they certainly would want to monitor their symptoms, potentially even go home to make sure, that they weren't spreading it in the event they did get it. So we were able to do that. We also sent out a communication to the company, just letting them know we had a positive case, what days this person would have been at, which facility, just to make sure everyone was aware and being careful. And in addition to that, we know that we most likely have had additional positive cases. So we have had quite a few people sick, but early stages of this, testing was pretty limited. So we have had a couple of employees that said, hey, I was told that I probably have it, but I'm feeling okay and I'm just going to quarantine. So definitely making sure we're keeping our drivers quarantined. If they can go home, that's ideal. If they're out on the road or maybe they live in the truck, we'll either allow them to stay in the truck, or we've also done hotel rooms just to make sure they're comfortable, they're able to rest, and feel good before they're able to come back.
What are some other things you've done that have really made a difference, that maybe new policies or programs that have been successful that you'll continue to do after the coronavirus has passed, or at least been mitigated?
Well, of course, once this all started, there was the mad rush to put out new policies, not only for drivers, but for mechanics, the warehouse, the office staff, policies, SOPs, and safety precautions. For drivers, we have also made care packages for them that include masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, soap, and disinfectant for their trucks. They know that these are all available at every location we have. And I've put together a health prep team for one person from each location who is keeping charge to making sure everything's in place and all the policies and SOPs are being followed.
Can you give us a sense of how your business will look when this is over? Like what changes will likely remain permanent?
We have definitely upped our technology game. I think we did pretty well with technology before, but it's really forced us to use what we have and get creative. So I think that we're going to have a lot more efficiencies in doing a lot of things. We've got ways for drivers to sign documents electronically. We don't have to wait for them to get to a terminal. So that's been a really good addition. We've also enhanced some of our truck cleaning processes. So we've actually done a lot of research on what types of things out there can kill germs in the truck. We purchased some, and I apologize here, I've got it written down, official name of it. So we purchased a smart disinfectant fogger that it basically sits in the truck for 4 hours and completely gets rid of any, germs, viruses. We also purchased some chlorine dioxide, which you can get, anywhere that sells pool supplies. This specific brand is Reset. It doesn't have any additives. That can clean the truck within 24 hours. So I think that our truck cleaning will certainly get enhanced, and our process for working on trucks. They have developed some additional processes, when they get in the truck, they're using gloves, masks, those kind of things, as well as putting down plastic and really just eliminating any spread of germs. Definitely seen a shift in the telework as well. I think there was a lot of fear with employees working from home. It had come up in the past. Well, now we've been kind of forced to have employees work from home and have found that they've been, really even more productive. So I think we may see some shift in possibly more flex work arrangements or telework arrangements.
What are some things some changes you made that will likely become standard operating procedure from here on out?
I will tell you that the hesitation of having our entire workforce work from home is something we've never experienced before. We've never tried before. And now that we've been doing it for a month and a half, I think I'm impressed by the ability of everyone still being able to work together. I know that they miss being in the office. They miss seeing each other's faces, that camaraderie. But proving that we can do it, I think, was probably our biggest aha moment, is that we can still function as a company. We can still make sure everything's done as efficient, if not more efficient, from working from home than being in the office. Definitely the orientation. I mean, we're going to make a few other changes once we can bring people back in. I think there is part of it of having that camaraderie or having a group of drivers together as they're going through the same experience, switching jobs. And I think maybe we'll still keep the appointment times and the road test in their own truck, which I think was great. But I think having that camaraderie and that classroom time together, we might go back to a little bit of that. Other than that, there's lots of changes that we're making all day. Every single day, to make sure we're being as efficient as possible. And the new technology that we have on some of our computers as far as utilization and what we're doing is being able to help our employees work better, faster, and smarter. For example, our Teams application that we're using it replaces our IM or our Zoom feature. It's been incredible for us we switched over to it because of this, the corona, and now that we're using it, I don't know how we ever survived without it. So I think that the changes forced us to move in a different direction with some of our technology, and it's been a very positive response from all of our office staff and our drivers.
I'd like to thank each of our speakers, Jesse, Chelsea, and Brenda, for providing us all with valuable information. They and each of their companies, Hirschbach, Halver Lyons, and Cocky Trucking, have found ways to operate safer and more efficiently during this time of crisis.